Pre-season testing has been a fascinating watch this year when the cars have actually been on track, and what we've seen has been pretty revealing. Some teams have clearly done a good job, creating a stable car which drivers can push and that the engineers can find more performance for. Now that is obviously the ideal scenario to find yourselves in during pre-season testing, but not all the teams are that lucky. There have been some awful problems for Haas, and McLaren aren't looking in a position to follow up their Constructors' Championship title with another one this season. Today I'll talk about the worst of the problems from pre-season testing, while trying to avoid saying don't read too much into the times too much, so don't go anywhere. Heading into F1 testing this season, I don't think anyone had huge expectations for what we would see. 2025 is the last year of the current regulations. That means that the teams have already had 3 seasons of furious development to try and find every millisecond of performance available to them. That means there's only so much performance left for them to find, and only so many exciting and innovative pieces of development for them to display. Well, obviously there's an infinite number of things they can do with the cars, but only a small number of them will actually be an improvement. To everyone's surprise, there has been plenty of innovation on show, and with it, plenty of performance being found. Carlos Sainz's headline time from day 2 of a 1 minute 29.348 was almost a full second quicker than Williams' best time from the Bahrain Grand Prix in 2024, when Alex Albon set a 1 minute 30.22 in qualifying. Now obviously, Alex Albon's car for that qualifying session would have been fully optimized with fuel loads and engine settings tuned for a qualifying run, while Carlos Sainz may not have had as optimized a car. There is an argument that the track temperature, which is colder now than it was during that qualifying session last season, will have given Carlos more grip, but he said in an interview that the cold weather was actually holding him back because he couldn't get his tires up to their optimum working temperature and was struggling for grip because of it. Either way, it is exciting times for Williams, though their focus is probably already on 2026, which was always the goal of James Vowles' project. But that is very positive, and I want to talk about some of the biggest struggles for the teams. Haas has had a lot of positivity around them coming into this preseason test. They diverged from Ferrari slightly this season, staying with the Scuderia's 2024 pushrod front suspension rather than the new 2025 pull rod setup. Considering the success of last season, with the team looking incredibly strong under the new leadership of Io Komatsu, that divergence from Ferrari was being perceived as a positive and exciting move. Haas have also opted for a rework of the engine cover. It's now much bulkier and more sculpted compared to what the team ended the season at Abu Dhabi with. The bulkier engine cover is similar to what Red Bull, Mercedes and McLaren used previously, and it enabled Haas to establish a more prominent tube section between the engine cover and the side pods, which allows the team to direct more air down towards the upper surface of the diffuser. Another upgrade revolves around the rear wing, which now features radically and aggressively designed end plates. The new configuration sees the tip section completely disconnect from the end plates. It's all very exciting stuff. Or at least it would be, if that new engine cover structure wasn't trying to destroy itself every time the car hit the track. During the team's private shakedown test before preseason testing, images escaped of the car with a blown-out side pod. Due to it being a private test, no one knew why or how it had happened, but on day 2 of preseason testing, with cameras everywhere, a serious problem with the Haas may have been exposed. While Oliver Bearman was trying to put in some fast laps at the start of day 3 of testing, his side pod exploded outward on the pit straight while traveling at high speed. You can see that new engine cover structure ripped open, exposing the engine cooling structure below. The failure happened because of delamination of the Kevlar honeycomb structure, which sits between the 2 layers of carbon fiber which make up the bodywork. Basically, the Haas team have tried to shave too much weight out of the bodywork and have ended up with a structure that is so weak that it cannot withstand the forces the car generates at high speed. Obviously, that is a pretty major problem, as the whole idea of Formula 1 is going as fast as possible. Solving the problem shouldn't be too hard. In the short term, they can reinforce the bodywork of the engine cover with parts they have in the garage, and in the longer term, they can change their manufacturing process to either increase the thickness of the bodywork or change how they're laying the carbon fiber weave to increase its strength. Either way though, that will be adding weight to the car, something no team wants to do. Before I move on to McLaren's struggles, if you're enjoying the video and want to catch all the latest news in Formula 1, then make sure to press the like button and subscribe to F1 Reverse. It really does help us out, so thank you very much. So Haas obviously have their issues, but as a solidly midfield team, they were never going to make a run at a championship this season. The same cannot be said for the reigning constructors champions McLaren. While they have looked like one of the fastest cars on the grid still in testing, with their long run pace particularly impressive, there have been some very obvious problems with the car. Lando Norris has revealed that McLaren's 2025 Formula One car is in the same ballpark as its title-winning predecessor, but with some rear-end instability which has been causing them problems throughout testing. Speaking at pre-season testing, Lando said, "Nothing's been majorly addressed. Let's say it's not like that much has changed from what we tried to do. We just try to make the car quicker all around and add more load. It's a very simple way of looking at it, honestly. We still want to try and focus on some areas more than others. Like you're saying, we've struggled a bit more with the rear than what we would have liked over yesterday and today, but it's still early days. We're not looking at absolute outright performance." That is a conservative description of the rear end, which has looked to snap out in some way every time the TV cameras have cut to the car. The oversteer that is causing that problem plagued Red Bull last season, as Sergio Perez failed to control the car while Verstappen held on to a tightly fought drivers' championship. What McLaren will need to do is try to not develop into that oversteer as Red Bull did, which made the car less and less controllable and eventually contributed to them losing the Constructors' Championship. McLaren's oversteer problems and Haas's exploding bodywork are a worry for both teams, but neither of them looks to be in a worse place than Sauber. And no, I'm not talking about the splinter that Nico Hülkenberg got in his eye due to a mechanic grinding bodywork while he was in the garage. No one expected much from Sauber this season. The team is now fully owned by Audi, but none of their branding is on the car yet, so all the team's development and investment is expected to be into next season. The result of that looks like a very slow car, which also isn't particularly nice to drive. They've also had some serious issues on Friday, which has kept Bortoletto in the garage for most of the morning session. The outlook at the moment is that Sauber are going to be even more last than they were last season. Let's hope the focus on 2026 is worth it, because this is going to be a painful year for the team. And let's end on a positive note and take a look at Mercedes, where they appear to have made a massive step forward this year. In terms of times, they look to be up there with Ferrari, but possibly a little short of McLaren. Excitingly, their new driver Andrea Kimi Antonelli also looks very good. If the Italian can take victory in the first 3 races, Antonelli will become F1's youngest ever winner, beating Max Verstappen's record set at the 2016 Spanish Grand Prix. Obviously, that is a massive ask, but if he does pull it off, it will be incredibly impressive and exciting for Mercedes' future. He looked confident in the car and was clearly pushing during the high-speed running of Day 2's afternoon session. Jolyon Palmer noticed Antonelli was really pushing the braking to the limit, saying, "Antonelli on the C4 tyre, running on the softest of what Mercedes have brought here, trying to get a look at a performance run, but not able to get it stopped for turn 4. We're seeing quite routinely now Antonelli struggling on the brakes. We've seen a lot of lockups." With that second lap crash in his first ever FP1 session last year, it would be easy to say that maybe he doesn't have the ability. But remember, Hamilton has crashed in every test he's done for a new team and is the sport's most successful driver. So perhaps Antonelli pushing that Mercedes just shows he has the confidence to try and find the limit, and at the moment, the car looks like it might be a match for him if he is the big talent that Toto Wolff thinks he might be. Who have you been most impressed by in preseason testing? Who are you the most worried about? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and until next time, drive safe and bye for now.